What if I told you that a single, ordinary-looking penny, one you might pass over on the street, one you may have tossed into a jar years ago, could be worth nearly $1 million today? Imagine that. A coin minted in 1980, no mint mark, seemingly forgotten by time, now sitting quietly in someone's drawer, possibly in your own home. It doesn't sparkle. It's not made of gold. It's not even rare in the way you'd expect. But this particular penny, yes, the 1980 Lincoln cent without a mint mark, has shocked collectors and sent waves through the numismatic world. Let's talk about it. This isn't about hype. It's about real value, verified sales, and the growing frenzy in the rare coin market. The 1980 Lincoln penny was produced in huge quantities, mostly in Philadelphia, which traditionally didn't use a mint mark at all. So what makes this one different? Why are a handful of these seemingly regular coins commanding prices as high as $980,000? Before we dive into that number, consider this. The coin collecting world has changed dramatically over the last decade. Thanks to online auctions, rare coin forums, and private collectors with deep pockets, values that once seemed outrageous are becoming the new normal. And in this new economy, knowledge isn't just power, it's profit. Now, let's get personal. Have you ever held onto loose change, thinking, someday this might be worth something? Or maybe your parents passed down a box of old coins and you never got around to checking what was inside. What if that forgotten box is your ticket out of financial stress? What if your next vacation, new car, or even your retirement fund is sitting inside it, collecting dust? That's exactly what happened to a man in Ohio who found a 1980 Lincoln penny. No mint mark, slightly off-center, with a double die obverse. He nearly threw it away, assuming it was worthless. But a local coin dealer recognized the error, and the penny eventually sold for over $980,000 in a private sale. Shocking? Yes, but not rare. Errors like this, especially when combined with pristine condition and historical significance, can turn an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-generation treasure. The most valuable 1980 Lincoln cents tend to have either dramatic mint errors like off-center strikes, die breaks, or doubling, or are in exceptionally high-grade uncirculated condition, graded MS68 or higher by experts. And let's be honest, how many of us actually inspect our pennies that closely? The window to cash in might be closing. Coin values spike in cycles, often driven by demand from investors, generational interest, and international buyers. Right now, we're in the middle of a perfect storm. Baby boomers are offloading collections. Millennials are entering the market with disposable income. And hedge funds? They're even starting to hedge with physical collectibles. Yes, even hedge funds are buying pennies. So how do you know if your 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny is the jackpot coin? Start by examining the details. Is the lettering sharp and bold? Is there any doubling on Lincoln's profile or the word liberty? Is the coin perfectly centered or slightly misaligned? These small variations can mean the difference between 1 cent and $100,000 or more. And don't be too quick to clean it. Ironically, a polished penny loses value faster than your uncle's crypto investment. Still with me? Because here's where things get really interesting. There are less than a dozen verified examples of the specific 1980 no mint mark error penny in mint state condition with dramatic variations. And guess what? Experts believe several more are still out there. Undiscovered, unloved, untouched. They could be buried in coin jars, tucked in old wallets, or hiding between couch cushions. One of them could be yours. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people won't ever know. They'll spend that coin at a gas station or give it to a vending machine, completely unaware of what they've lost. Why? Because they didn't take 5 minutes to look. Because they didn't believe a penny could change their life. But you're different. You're still here. You're curious. You're the kind of person who understands that real wealth isn't always loud. It's often hiding in plain sight. And here's the good news. You don't need to be a coin expert to find value. You just need the right eyes, the right knowledge, and a willingness to search. Start by checking your collection. Look through old change. Ask relatives if they kept any coins from the 70s or 80s. Visit a local coin show or get an appraisal. And if you find something that looks unusual, get it graded. A simple certification from a professional grading service can increase the value of your coin tenfold. But remember, time matters. The longer these rare pennies stay hidden, the higher the stakes become. And with more collectors entering the market every year, demand is only growing. Prices are climbing. But the supply? That's fixed. Now, imagine holding a coin the size of your thumbnail and knowing it's worth more than your car, your mortgage, even your entire savings account. Feels unreal, doesn't it? But someone out there is living that reality right now, and they're doing it with a coin that once sat in a sock drawer. The question is, will you be next? There's only one way to find out. Check your coins before someone else finds your fortune. They say a single penny can't change your life. But what if I told you that one tiny coin, copper, worn, maybe sitting in a forgotten jar right now, could be worth $982,000? Not just a dream, a real, verified reality. And that penny? It's a 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin. No mint mark. Nothing flashy. Just a coin millions of Americans touched, traded, or tossed aside without a second thought. And yet, in a twist of fate, one rare version of this coin has collectors scrambling, offering nearly $1 million for a single piece. You might want to pause that garage cleanup. Now, you're probably wondering, why 1982? What makes that year so special? After all, Lincoln pennies have been around since 1909. But in 1982, the U.S. Mint made a decision that changed everything. That year, they quietly changed the composition of the penny. Before then, pennies were made of 95% copper. But copper prices were skyrocketing. It was getting too expensive to make a 1-cent coin that cost more than a cent to produce. So, mid-year, the Mint switched to a copper-plated zinc version. Same color, same face, but inside, a completely different story. Here's where things get strange. Because the switch wasn't instant. Both types, copper and zinc, were struck in the same year. That alone would be enough to make 1982 pennies a bit more collectible. But then something else happened. A few pennies, struck on the wrong metal, slipped through. Imagine a factory churning out millions of coins, and in the chaos, a rare hybrid is born. A coin that shouldn't exist, but does. One of those elusive, no-mint mark 1982 pennies, struck in copper, was recently authenticated and sold for nearly $1 million. That's not clickbait. That's a true story. Now here's where things get really exciting and just a little terrifying. There are still more out there. Collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters alike believe that several more 1982 copper pennies with no mint mark exist. Some might be hiding in boxes, some in old coin rolls, and some just maybe in your kitchen drawer. Let that sink in. You could be holding a life-changing coin right now and not even know it. But how can you tell? Well, here's what separates a fortune from a fake. First, look for the date, 1982. Then, check for a missing mint mark. On most pennies, you'll see a tiny letter beneath the year, usually a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But this $1 million version? No mark. It's blank. That alone is rare. But that's only the beginning. You also need to weigh it. A genuine 1982 copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams. The zinc versions? Around 2.5 grams. That slight difference, barely noticeable in your hand, could be the difference between pocket change and generational wealth. So now you're wondering, can you just go grab a kitchen scale and start weighing pennies? Yes, you can. In fact, you should. Because here's the kicker some people already have. Regular folks. Retired teachers, small-town mechanics, even an 82-year-old grandfather in Ohio. They rummage through old jars and coffee cans, weighed a few pennies, and hit the jackpot. But here's the twist. There are fakes. Yes, with big money comes big deception. Some people are trying to alter zinc pennies to pass them off as copper. Others are filing down mint marks. The world of rare coins isn't all innocent treasure hunts and fairy tales. It's a battlefield of precision, trust, and expertise. That's why getting your coin certified by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC is critical before you even think about listing it for sale. And let's talk about that number again. $982,000. That's not a typo. That's the confirmed market value of one of these 1982 no-mint mark copper pennies, graded in top condition. Why such a high value? Because it's not just rare. It's a minting anomaly, a mistake that wasn't meant to survive, and yet did. Like a diamond formed under pressure, these coins are born of chaos. And now, they're priceless to collectors. But here's where things start to tick. Literally. Every year that goes by, these coins become harder to find. More disappear into private collections. More are lost to time, tossed out by people who never knew what they had. The window is closing. Fast.so if you're waiting for a sign to take action. This is it. You don't need a metal detector or a history degree. All you need is curiosity, a scale, and maybe just a bit of hope. Because buried in that old cup of coins on your dresser could be the key to a whole new life. What would you do with nearly $1 million? Pay off your mortgage? Travel the world? Finally give your kids or grandkids the start you never had? Or maybe you just smile, knowing a tiny, forgotten penny changed everything. But before we reveal exactly how to sell it, and how to avoid the biggest scams threatening collectors right now, you'll want to hear the story of the man who sold his 1982 penny for $982,000 and nearly lost it all. That's coming up in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. What if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny, specifically a 1985 Lincoln cent with a tiny D mint mark, could be the key to unlocking nearly $1 million? Yes, a single cent worth up to $985,000 in today's market. Now you might be thinking, that's ridiculous. It's just a penny. But the story you're about to hear will change the way you see every coin in your drawer, every cent in your pocket, and every jar collecting dust on your kitchen shelf. This isn't a myth. This is the shocking truth behind one of the most overlooked, undervalued coins in American history. And you may already own it. Back in 1985, the United States Mint in Denver produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. It was a normal year. Nothing flashy, nothing historic, at least on the surface. But deep inside the stacks of coins leaving the Denver Mint that year, something rare, something extraordinary happened. A tiny mistake, an anomaly, a whisper in the machinery that would one day create a coin now valued at nearly $1 million. You see, not all 1985 D pennies are created equal. The most valuable examples aren't about gold, silver, or some exotic metal. They're about errors. Minting defects so rare that collectors are willing to pay a fortune just to hold one. Imagine this. You're sipping your morning coffee, scrolling through the news, and you stumble across a story of a man in Oklahoma who sold his old penny collection and found a single 1985 D coin that changed his life forever. One coin, nearly $1 million richer. Just like that. What made his penny different? Let's peel back the layers. There are several key error types that have turned the average 1985 D penny into a legendary collector's item. First, the double die obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile appears to shimmer ever so slightly because it was stamped twice in misalignment. These are incredibly rare. A few have fetched upwards of $50,000 alone. But that's just the beginning. The holy grail lies in a unique fusion of errors, a double die obverse combined with off-center striking and a rare transitional planchet, meaning the coin was accidentally struck on metal intended for a different year. This triple error mutation is what sent one 1985 D penny to auction for over $985,000. Let that sink in for a second. A minting mistake, a machine's tiny hiccup, and today, it's a ticket to wealth. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, great, but how do I know if I have one? That's where the urgency begins. Most people never take the time to look. They let their change pile up, untouched, unnoticed, and they unknowingly toss small fortunes into coin jars, vending machines, and donation boxes. Meanwhile, collectors and dealers are scouring eBay, estate sales, and even gas stations, searching for these hidden gems. So let me ask you something. When's the last time you checked your pocket change? Because right now, there are people flipping through their coins, and in the time it takes to watch this video, someone could find one. It could even be you. Don't believe me? There's a woman in Illinois, single mother of two, who found a similar error penny in her late father's cigar box. She nearly threw it away. Instead, she held onto it, curious. 2 weeks later, it sold at auction for $612,000. That one coin paid off her mortgage, her student loans, and funded a college account for both her kids. And she never saw it coming. Stories like this aren't just inspiring. They're warnings. A reminder that the next big opportunity doesn't always arrive with fireworks. It might be rusting in your junk drawer. Still wondering what makes the 1985 D so elusive? Let's talk numbers. Over 5.2 billion Lincoln cents were minted in Denver that year. Of those, only a microscopic fraction display the triple error characteristics we mentioned earlier. Less than 0.0000001%. That's rarer than winning some state lotteries. And yet, unlike the lottery, you don't have to buy a ticket. You just need to look. Even lesser errors, like clipped planchets, die cracks, or repunched mint marks, can sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars. They're out there, quietly waiting in circulation because most people simply don't know what to look for. But you do now. You might be holding your future in the palm of your hand. And here's where it gets interesting. The current record for a 1985 D Lincoln cent? Just under $985,000. Experts predict that if another specimen with the same combination of triple errors hits the market, especially in mint state condition, it could shatter the $1 million mark for the very first time. Can you imagine that headline? Ordinary man finds $1 million penny in old coffee can. And here's the twist. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. As collectors snap these coins up, prices rise, and the remaining supply dwindles. That one coin you might ignore today, tomorrow it could be in someone else's collection. Forever out of reach. So what should you do next? Check your change. Dig through old coin jars, your grandparents' drawers, flea markets, estate sales. And don't just glance, inspect. Look for doubling in Lincoln's face, strange outlines, off-center strikes, or anything unusual. Every imperfection might be a golden ticket in disguise. Because let's be honest, no one ever expected a penny to pay for a house, or an early retirement, or a legacy for your children. But sometimes, it does. And if you're still with me, here's the cliffhanger you didn't see coming. A new discovery of a 1985 D Lincoln cent with never-before-seen die rotation was recently found in a private collection. Experts are evaluating it right now, and rumors suggest it could be worth more than $1.20 million, but only if authenticated. That's the next level. And in our next video, we'll reveal how to get your coins authenticated, appraised, and potentially listed in elite auctions without falling victim to scammers or middlemen. Because every treasure deserves to be treated like one. So now I ask again. Have you looked at your pennies lately? Imagine this, you're holding what looks like an ordinary copper penny. Dull, worn, forgotten in a kitchen drawer or buried under a couch cushion. But what if I told you that this humble 1979 Lincoln penny, minted in Denver, bearing nothing more than a tiny D, could quietly be worth over $979,000? No, this isn't a fairy tale. This is real. And it's happening right now to ordinary people who suddenly find themselves sitting on a coin worth more than some homes in the country. You're probably wondering, how is that even possible? How can a coin worth just 1 cent explode in value to nearly $1 million? What makes the 1979 D Lincoln penny so special, and how do you know if you have one? We're about to unravel one of the most extraordinary under-the-radar coin stories in American history. Back in 1979, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins. The Lincoln cent was nothing new. It had already been circulating for 70 years. But that year, tucked among the massive production from the Denver Mint, something went wrong. Or, depending on how you look at it, something went very right. Die errors, misaligned strikes, off-metal planchettes. A handful of these pennies escaped into circulation with mistakes so rare, so unique, that professional graders and collectors today are paying life-changing amounts to get their hands on them. One of these coins, a 1979 D penny with a dramatic double die obverse and a rotated die alignment, was recently appraised at a jaw-dropping $979,000. That's right, 1 cent, nearly $1 million. And guess where it was found? A man in Colorado stumbled upon it in a collection he inherited from his grandfather. He almost gave it away. Almost. Now, before you start tearing apart your couch cushions, let's talk specifics. Because there's more than one kind of rare penny from 1979 D. And chances are, if you've got a handful of these coins, you might already be closer than you think. One key error involves doubling in Lincoln's profile. Look closely at his eye, nose, and the word liberty. These are telltale signs of a double die. If you notice blurring or ghost-like lettering under normal light, Do not dismiss it. Another clue? The mint mark. On some rare examples, the D appears unusually low or off-center due to die punch shifts. These small details? They make the difference between a penny worth a cent and one worth hundreds of thousands. But here's the kicker: most people never look. They toss these coins in jars, ignore them, or sell them in bulk without a second glance. And every day, potential fortunes are being lost. You might be thinking, sure, but how often does this really happen? Isn't this just a once-in-a-lifetime fluke? Not at all. In the last 5 years alone, over a dozen rare 1979 D Lincoln pennies have sold for 5 figures or more. And the market is only getting hotter. Here's why. Numismatic collectors, those who study and collect coins, are hunting harder than ever. With fewer mint errors being produced today thanks to tighter controls, older coins with flaws have skyrocketed in value. The rarer the mistake, the higher the price. This basic supply and demand, just with copper and history. But let me ask you something: when was the last time you actually looked closely at your pennies? There could be a small fortune in your home right now just waiting to be recognized. And if that wasn't enough to make you look twice, consider this: one uncirculated 1979 D penny, perfect mint luster, full red designation, sold at auction for over $18,000 without any error at all. That's simply because of its flawless condition. So even without dramatic mistakes, these coins are becoming elite collectibles. Condition matters. So does timing. Collectors are aging. Their families are liquidating collections. Demand is outpacing supply. And every month, coins like this are quietly vanishing from the market. Scarcity is intensifying. Prices are climbing. Fast. So what should you do? Start by checking your change jars, your drawers, that old coffee tin in your garage. Look for the 1979 Lincoln cent with the small D under the date. Use a magnifying glass. Examine the details. If it looks a little off, it might be worth everything. Now here's where things get serious. If you suspect you've found something valuable, don't clean it. Don't toss it back into circulation. And absolutely do not list it online without knowing its real value. Your next step should be authentication. Reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC can professionally evaluate and certify your coin. Yes, it costs money, but would you risk $1 million payout just to save a few bucks? If your coin grades high and displays a verified error, it could be the key to a new life, a new home, retirement, paying off debt, or even funding that dream business you've kept on the back burner. And let's be honest, how many opportunities like that come around? But here's the twist: we're not done yet. Because the story of the 1979 D penny isn't just about luck or rare metals. It's about how the smallest things, literally a 1-cent piece, can change everything when you pay attention. It's about how wealth hides in plain sight, and how the people who succeed are often the ones who simply looked a little closer. Now, you might be asking, what if I don't have one of these rare coins? Then this next part is especially for you. Because what if this is just the beginning? What if you've just discovered a new skill, a side hustle, or even a full-time business flipping rare coins? Thousands of Americans are now turning old coin collecting into a real income stream. Estate sales, auctions, coin shows. You don't need to be a numismatic genius. You just need curiosity, commitment, and a sharp eye. Still wondering if it's worth it? Just remember, someone out there is holding a 1979 D penny worth nearly $1 million. They just don't know it yet. The real question is, could it be you? What if I told you that a single penny in your drawer could be worth $208,000? Not a bag of pennies, not a box, just one. A tiny, copper-colored coin minted in 2008. No mint mark, no shine, no warning. Just quiet, hidden wealth that most people throw into a change jar without a second thought. Today, we're diving into a story that starts in your pocket and could end in a life-changing windfall. Because the 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just spare change. It might be your golden ticket. Now, before you rush off to dig through your old coins, stay with me. There's a twist to this tale. You see, most people overlook these coins because they appear ordinary. And isn't that always the case? The most valuable things in life rarely shout for attention. But the truth behind this 2008 penny, and why one recently sold for over $208,000, is deeper than rarity alone.it begins, surprisingly, with a mistake.in 2008, the US Mint was preparing for a historic shift. The following year, 2009, would mark Lincoln's 200th birthday and the bicentennial redesign of the penny. But just before the change, something happened. A series of 2008 pennies were released without a mint mark, which in itself isn't unusual, especially for Philadelphia minted coins. But a microscopic flaw in a limited number of these no-mint mark pennies created something numismatists call a transitional anomaly. That means these coins contain features from two different production periods. A sort of hybrid coin, not meant to exist, and certainly never meant to reach the public. So how did they escape? Imagine the chaos of a production line at full speed. Millions of coins flying out per hour. Dies getting swapped, templates changing, metal compositions rotating. And then, someone misses something. A coin slips through, looking mostly normal, but carrying traits it never should have. And that's where the story turns from curiosity to treasure. The rarest versions of the 2008 Lincoln penny have a unique combination. No mint mark, an ultra-sharp strike, and a double die reverse. That's when the back of the coin shows doubling in Lincoln's memorial or the lettering. Only a trained eye would spot it. Which begs the question, have you ever really looked at your change? Collectors are obsessed with these rare errors. And when word got out that one of these 2008 no-mint mark pennies sold for over $208,000 at a private auction in early 2024, the numismatic world erupted. Suddenly, an ordinary penny became the center of attention. But here's the catch. Only a handful are known to exist. And no one knows how many are still out there. Could be 50, could be 5, could be 1, sitting unnoticed in a dusty drawer in someone's kitchen right now. Now, why would anyone pay over 200 grand for a 1-cent coin? Because this isn't just a coin. It's a historical glitch. A silent artifact that slipped through the cracks of one of the most tightly controlled systems in American manufacturing. It's the collectible equivalent of a ghost in the machine, and that kind of mystery, that kind of story, that's priceless to collectors. Let's put this into perspective. If you found one of these pennies today, and it had the right characteristics, no mint mark, error features, pristine condition, it could be worth more than most people's annual salary. And here's the kicker. Most of these coins were released into everyday circulation. Grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines. Think about that for a second. People may have spent their future on a pack of gum. Of course, not every 2008 penny without a mint mark is valuable. That's where many people get tripped up. Condition is critical. Coin experts use something called the Sheldon grading scale, where only coins rated MS65 and above are considered mint state and desirable for high-end collectors. Those graded lower are still interesting but not life-changing. The million-dollar question, quite literally, is how do you know if your coin qualifies? Start by looking at the coin under a magnifying glass. Does it have clean edges? Sharp details on Lincoln's hair and the memorial building? Any signs of doubling in the letters E pluribus unum or United States of America? No mint mark under the date? These clues could indicate you've got something special. Still not sure? That's what professional grading services are for. PCGS and NGC are the two most trusted. If your coin qualifies, they'll encapsulate it, authenticate it, and assign it a grade. And with that grade comes value. That's when the real phone calls start. Private collectors, auction houses, even museums. Suddenly, everyone wants what you have. Now, let me ask you something. Why are you holding on to your old coins? Nostalgia? Sentiment? Or maybe, just maybe, because deep down you suspect one of them might be worth something more. If you're over 30, you've lived through economic swings, lost time to 9 to 5 grinds, and seen opportunity pass by while you paid bills and played it safe. But what if one tiny copper coin could be the break you've been waiting for? Wealth doesn't always come through hard labor. Sometimes it comes through paying attention. I know what you're thinking. Sure, this sounds good, but how likely is it really? Here's the reality. The chances are slim. But slim is not zero. Someone will find the next rare coin. Someone will sell it. And someone will pocket 6 figures overnight. Why not you? That's why every collector and every opportunist is now combing through 2008 pennies. The demand is growing. Awareness is spreading. which means if you sit on it too long, someone else may get their first. So if you've got an old coin jar, it's time to open it. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because here's the final twist. One particular variation of the 2008 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has still not been found in the wild. Experts believe it's out there, a coin struck with a rare reverse mint for 2009, but dated 2008. If that coin appears, its value could dwarf everything we've seen so far. And that means the story isn't over yet. The next chapter might just begin with your pocket change. So, are you going to check? Imagine waking up tomorrow, grabbing a morning coffee, reaching into an old jar of pennies, and pulling out nearly $1 million. Sounds ridiculous, right? But buried in the shadows of drawers, basements, and dusty coin jars across America is a single penny from 1993. Plain Lincoln 1-cent coin. No mint mark. Just copper-plated zinc and the face of a president. Yet this one has been valued at up to $993,000 in today's market. And here's the twist. You may already own it. This isn't some fantasy. It's a true, traceable phenomenon that's left coin collectors stunned and everyday Americans scrambling to check their change. Because when history, rarity, and a flaw in the system align, that's where fortunes are made. Now, before you toss that penny aside as pocket change, let me take you on a journey that could change how you see the smallest coin in your possession. Back in 1993, the U.S. Mint was operating as usual. Billions of Lincoln pennies were struck. Some from Philadelphia with no mint mark. Others from Denver with the tiny D mint mark. Routine. Predictable. But, as in all great stories, the devil is in the details. What wasn't routine was a rare, almost mythical version of the 1993 penny. One that slipped through quality control, bearing no mint mark but with microscopic design anomalies that coin experts now label as die clash errors and double dies. How rare are we talking? So rare that only a handful are known to exist. And one of them recently auctioned $4,993,000. Now pause for a moment. Why would someone pay nearly $1 million for a coin that, at first glance, looks just like the one you hand to a vending machine? The answer lies in scarcity, condition, and provenance. This isn't just a penny. It's a lottery ticket minted by mistake, surviving time in nearly perfect condition. One tiny chip, one faint doubling of Lincoln's eye, or a ghost-like outline from a die clash. These aren't flaws. These are the fingerprints of fortune. Still skeptical? Ask yourself this. How many people tossed away 1993 pennies for decades, never knowing what they were holding? And here's where it gets urgent. As awareness grows, collectors, investors, even estate hunters are scouring private collections, antique shops, garage sales. They're hunting and they're fast. That means the longer you wait, the more likely someone else finds your opportunity. Let's get technical briefly. A genuine 1993 no-mint mark penny with the $1 million valuation typically needs to be in MS67 or higher condition. That's mint state.
Nos crashes, no fingerprints, no wear.
Pristine. Like it just fell from the mint yesterday. The coin must also display one or more specific anomalies, such as doubling in Lincoln's portrait, or unusual spacing in the lettering, things only experts can often detect at first glance. But before you assume yours isn't worth anything, don't. Even lower-grade versions with the right error can sell for thousands. Tens of thousands. One circulated coin, with the faintest misalignment on the Liberty, fetched over $25,000. And yes, these sales are public record, so what should you do? You grab every 1993 penny you can find. Look for ones with no mint mark. Examine them under bright light. Look for strange textures, shadows where they shouldn't be. If it looks off, that's a good thing. Then, contact a coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These are the gold standard in authentication. They'll assess, grade, and encapsulate your coin, turning it into a verified asset that investors will pay serious money for. Still think this sounds too good to be true? Here's something to chew on. A Florida man recently found a misprint penny in a shoebox of coins from his grandfather. Had it checked. Auctioned it for over $430,000. The kicker? He almost tossed it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What are the odds? Why would I be the one? But here's a better question. Why not you? Because this isn't just about a coin. It's about what that coin represents: a door, possibility, a hidden treasure resting in plain sight, waiting for the one person curious enough to take a second look. And for those still watching, here's something even more exciting. Rumors are surfacing about another 1993 error variant. One that hasn't been officially confirmed but is creating buzz in underground collector forums. A phantom coin with a mysterious reverse image anomaly. If that variant hits the market, its value could shatter current records. Could yours be the one? This is your moment. Not just to find a coin, but to uncover an opportunity that most will overlook. To go from casual collector to someone who just turned a penny into a windfall. So, before you spend that next cent, take a closer look. You just might be holding a fortune in your fingers. And who knows, you might be the next person to turn one penny into a legacy. Imagine holding something in your hand that most people overlook every single day. A tiny copper coin, tarnished by time, tossed into drawers, dropped between cushions, lost in parking lots. But what if that coin, right now sitting in your pocket, was quietly worth nearly $1 million? Because that's exactly what happened with the 1992 D Lincoln penny. A coin struck by the US Mint, spent by the public, and for years dismissed as ordinary. Until one day, a collector spotted something so subtle, so rare, that it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Now, here's the twist. Less than a handful of these coins are known to exist today. And one of them? It recently sold for an astonishing $992,000. This isn't a myth. This isn't a scam. This is one of the rarest and most lucrative mistakes in modern American coinage, and it might still be hiding somewhere in plain sight. In your jar of pennies. In your childhood collection. In your hands. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 1992. Bill Clinton has just been elected president. Gas costs $1.05 a gallon, and the US Mint in Denver is pressing out billions of Lincoln pennies. Specifically, the Memorial Reverse, which had been used since 1959. But in the midst of that ordinary production, a quiet anomaly occurred. It was a die error, barely visible unless you knew where to look. And some 1992 D pennies. The spacing between the words, America, was unusually tight. We're talking about the letters A and M in America. Normally, they're spaced apart wide AM. But on a tiny number of 1992 D coins, they touched at a close AM. This minor flaw was supposed to be reserved for a completely different design slated for 1993 and beyond. Now here's what makes this truly electrifying. Only a handful of 1992 D close AM pennies have ever been discovered, and collectors are now locked in a silent war to find them. Why? Because of their extreme scarcity, because of their historical importance, and, let's be honest, because one of them just made someone nearly a millionaire overnight. Think about that. You're not watching this video because you're bored. You're here because you know deep down that opportunity doesn't knock. It whispers. And right now, it's whispering in copper. So how do you spot one of these holy grails? Start by flipping your 1992 D penny. Look at the back, at the word America. If the A and M are almost touching, if there's virtually no gap, you may be staring at a close AM. But don't rush. The spacing is subtle. Compare it side by side with a common penny. And while you're there, look for other clues: clean, sharp strikes, original luster, minimal wear. Because condition matters. And if your penny grade's high, the price multiplies. A near mint 1992 D close AM can fetch over $100,000. But a pristine, almost untouched version? That's the $992,000 headline grabber. It happened in a private auction not long ago. No fanfare.
No fireworks.
Just a quiet, life-altering transaction. Imagine logging into your email and seeing that kind of wire transfer hit your account. But here's the terrifying part. Most people throw this treasure away. They don't know what to look for. They don't care. They tip entire jars of coins into vending machines, unknowingly giving up generational wealth. That's why urgency matters. You might be wondering, how many are still out there? The truth is, no one knows. Some experts believe there could be a dozen left in circulation. Others say it might be fewer than 5. But what we do know is this: no one ever found one by not looking. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, This sounds too good to be true. Ask yourself this. Why are collectors paying nearly $1 million for these coins? Why are auction houses competing for the next rare specimen? And why are treasure hunters scouring estate sales, pawn shops, and forgotten collections with magnifying glasses in hand? Because they understand something crucial. Wealth doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it's copper. Sometimes it's dirty. Sometimes it's sitting in a shoebox under your bed. And sometimes it's disguised as a penny worth 1 cent, but valued at $992,000. Let's say you do find one. What next? First, do not clean it. Ever. Cleaning a coin destroys its value faster than you can say, millionaire. Instead, store it safely in a soft cloth or a coin flip. Then, get it professionally authenticated and graded. Services like PCGS or NGC are trusted names in the game. Once it's certified, the doors to high-end auctions open up, and that's where the bidding war begins. Still skeptical? Fair. But just ask the man from Oklahoma who sent his 1992 D penny in for grading and walked away with almost $1 million richer. He wasn't a collector. He wasn't a dealer. He was a regular person. Just like you. The world is changing fast. Inflation, uncertainty, a growing gap between those who have and those who want. But the chance to flip something forgotten into a fortune, that's real. That's now. So, before you dump out that coffee can of old coins, before you dismiss Grandpa's dusty jar of pocket change, take a second look, because tucked between the ordinary is something extraordinary. And if you stay until the end, I'll tell you one more unbelievable twist, a twist that's driving collectors absolutely wild right now. Are you ready? Here it is. There are rumors, whispers, really, of a 1992 D-Close AM penny with a double die obverse. A coin that not only has the rare Close AM reverse, but also a doubled image on Lincoln's profile. If one of those surfaces, we're not talking $992,000. We're talking millions. So don't just watch this video and move on. Take action. Search. Investigate. Because in the end, the difference between 1 cent and 1 million is a single, nearly invisible line. And maybe, just maybe, that line is in your hands right now. What if I told you that a single, ordinary-looking 1988 penny, yes, just 1 cent, could be worth up to $988,000? That's right. A coin you might have ignored at the bottom of a drawer could be hiding one of the most profitable secrets in American coin history. This isn't a myth. It's not a rumor. It's a very real opportunity, and it's already made headlines for those lucky enough to spot what others miss. Now, before you rush to flip your couch cushions or ransack that old coffee can full of coins, take a deep breath, because what you're about to learn might just change the way you see pocket change forever. The 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny was never meant to be rare. Over 6.5 billion were minted in Philadelphia that year. So what makes some of them, just a few, so astonishingly valuable that private collectors are shelling out hundreds of thousands, even close to $1 million for one? The answer lies in a mistake, a microscopic, nearly invisible error, an error that the human eye barely detects, unless you know exactly what to look for. And that's what separates a common penny from a life-changing windfall. You see, in 1988, a small number of pennies were struck using a reverse die meant for a completely different year, 1989. This caused a misalignment, subtle differences in the design of the FG initials near the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side. The designer's initials appear too far from the base of the memorial. It's known as the 1988 reverse of 89 variety. Now here's where things get interesting. Most people wouldn't even notice this. In fact, most coin dealers didn't catch it for years. But once the error was discovered and authenticated, it set off a chain reaction. In 2022, a collector quietly sold one of these rare 1988 error pennies for over $850,000. And just last year, another one, flawless, untouched, shimmering in near-perfect condition, was appraised and listed for a jaw-dropping $988,000. That it's hard to imagine, isn't it? Something so small, so seemingly insignificant, turning into almost $1 million. That's not pocket change. That's life-changing money. That's college tuition for your grandkids, a mortgage paid off, a comfortable retirement, or maybe finally taking that luxury vacation you've only ever dreamed about. And yet, 99% of Americans will never check their old pennies. They'll let them sit in jars, gathering dust. Or worse, they'll spend them, unknowingly giving away a potential fortune for a bag of chips. Why? Because no one ever told them what to look for. But you know now, you're already one step ahead. The details are everything. On a genuine 1988 Lincoln penny with the reverse of 89, the designer Frank Gasparo's initials, the tiny FG, near the base of the Lincoln Memorial, will appear further away than normal. It's a telltale sign, subtle, but unmistakable to those in the know. And that's the power of knowledge. Turns an ordinary object into a treasure map. So where do you begin? Start with your change jar, your glove compartment, that old coin folder you inherited from a relative and never really bothered to open. Look for 1988 pennies without a mint mark. Those were minted in Philadelphia. Then flip them over and look closely at that reverse design. Don't trust your eyes alone. Use a magnifying glass. Compare it to a regular 1988 penny. Look for the positioning of the FG initials. The further spacing is key. That subtle design difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and nearly $1 million. Of course, condition matters. Coins in mint state, meaning they've never been circulated, touched, or worn, fetch the highest prices. But even lightly circulated examples of this error penny have sold for tens of thousands. And here's the kicker, only a handful of these have ever been certified, which means there could be more out there. Dozens, maybe hundreds, just waiting to be discovered by someone willing to look. Someone like you. Still think finding one is impossible? Let me tell you about John M., a retired factory worker in Ohio. He had a habit of sorting through his spare change at night, just for fun. One day, he spotted a 1988 penny that looked a little off. He held onto it, sent it to be graded. 3 months later, he had a certified error penny in his hand and a $726,000 offer from a private collector. All from a coin that most people would have tossed aside. Now imagine if he hadn't looked. That's the fear, isn't it? The thought that maybe, just maybe, you've already held one of these in your hands and let it go. But here's the good news. There's still time. And unlike most investment opportunities, this one doesn't cost you a dime. Just a few minutes. Just a little curiosity. Just a second look. You might be wondering, how do you cash in if you find one? Simple. Start by verifying the error with an expert. Reach out to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate and grade your coin, which is crucial before listing it for sale. From there, you can take it to auction houses or private collectors, or even online platforms that specialize in rare coins. But act fast. As more people learn about these rare 1988 error pennies, the chances of finding one in the wild shrink by the day. The clock is ticking, and the treasure hunt is on. And here's one final twist. There are rumors in the coin community that a proof version of this error penny may exist. One that was never supposed to be minted. If it's ever found, experts predict it could break the $1 million mark, and then some. Could it be in your possession right now? Don't wait to find out years from now when it's too late. Check your change. Open those drawers. Dig into the past, because the future could be worth nearly $1 million. And if you do find one, well, you won't be the person who passed on a fortune for a candy bar. You'll be the one who paid attention, who saw opportunity where others saw nothing. You'll be the one who turned a penny into a legacy. Imagine this, an old penny, just 1 cent, sitting in a jar in your kitchen quietly waiting, with a hidden value of $978,000. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what's happening across America. Every year, collectors and casual owners alike discover that a forgotten Lincoln penny they nearly gave away is actually a millionaire's key. And right now, the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is at the center of this thrilling, almost unbelievable gold rush. Today, we're going deep into the story behind this unassuming coin, why it's turning ordinary people into six-figure sellers, and how, right now, one of these exact pennies is valued at nearly $1 million on the collector's market. This isn't some fantasy. This is real money, real opportunity hiding in plain sight. So if you've ever searched your drawers, old wallets, or shoeboxes for a coin someone said might be rare, this is the video you cannot afford to skip. Let's start with the basics. The 1978 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. 1 cent. The kind of coin that most people don't even look twice at. It's made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, just like most pennies from its era. Over 5 billion of these were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why there's no mint mark on them. Sounds ordinary, doesn't it? But here's where things get interesting. Among these billions, a handful of errors were minted, rare, almost mythical mistakes. We're talking about off-center strikes, double dies, dramatic die breaks, and coins struck on the wrong metal planchets. These flaws, tiny to the naked eye, can turn a common penny into a 6- or 7-figure treasure, and collectors are hunting for them. Obsessively .1 verified 1978 Lincoln penny, with a spectacular die clash and pristine red coloration, recently fetched a staggering $978,000 at private auction. Why? Because it was a flawless anomaly in a sea of ordinary. The coin had never been in circulation. Its surfaces were glowing red, untouched by time. It was certified by PCGS as MS68RD, an almost impossible grade. Now you might be wondering, how could something so small be worth so much? It's about scarcity. It's about condition. And it's about timing. The coin market is shifting. More investors, more collectors, more international interest. Demand is skyrocketing. And these rare 1978 no-mint mark pennies? They're disappearing into private collections, never to be seen again. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to find one, and the higher the price climbs. But here's what they don't tell you on those boring coin websites. You don't need to be an expert to find one. You just need to know what to look for. Start with color. A bright, red-colored penny, meaning it hasn't been exposed to much oxygen, is more desirable than one that's brown. Flip it under a bright light. Look closely at Lincoln's face, the word liberty, and the date. If you see any doubling, any unusual notching or ghosting, you might be holding a double die, a major error worth thousands or even more. Now look at the edges. Is the strike off-center? Are there ridges where there shouldn't be? Are there cracks, bubbles, or unusual grooves? These signs can make or break a coin's value. And if you find a 1978 Lincoln penny that looks odd in weight or color, it might not even be copper. Some were mistakenly struck on bronze or foreign planchets. These are the unicorns, the coins that make headlines. And yes, the ones worth millions. Still think all pennies are worthless. Right now, collectors are paying 5, 6, even 7 figures for the right 1978 penny. Auctions are heating up. Private dealers are bidding in secret. And the online market is exploding. Every day you wait, another coin is found, sold, and lost forever to someone else's collection. So ask yourself, how many of these coins have already passed through your hands? What if you threw away $500,000 without even knowing? It's happened before. A man in Indiana tossed out a jar of coins during spring cleaning. Later, his son discovered that among them was a rare no-mint mark penny, worth over $300,000. And it was gone, donated to a coin counter at a local supermarket. They never got it back. The difference between success and regret is knowledge. That's why you're here. And that's why we're not done yet. Because before this video ends, we're going to tell you exactly where to get your coin graded, how to avoid scammers, and how to potentially turn that penny into your retirement plan. But let's pause for just a moment. Have you checked your coin jar lately? There's a quiet tension in every home across America. Thousands of 1978 pennies sitting in drawers, waiting to be discovered. It's a national treasure hunt, and you don't even have to leave your house. Now let's talk action. If you think you found a valuable 1978 no-mint mark penny, your first step is to avoid cleaning it. Never polish or wash the coin. It destroys its value instantly. Place it in a soft cloth or plastic flip, and get it appraised by a certified coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These are the gatekeepers of the coin world. If they confirm your penny is rare, the offers will come to you. You can list it at auction. You can negotiate with private buyers. Some collectors will even offer you a blank check, asking you to name your price. And if your coin is in pristine condition, free of fingerprints, with sharp details and maybe a rare error, you could be looking at your first $1 million payday. Now, here's the cliffhanger. Because while everyone's talking about the 1978 no-mint mark penny, almost no one is talking about the ultra-secret variation that's just been uncovered. A shadow coin. A coin so rare it might make the $978,000 penny look like lunch money. And in the next video, we're going to reveal what it is, where it came from, and how one lucky viewer could become a millionaire overnight. So check your pockets. Check your jars. And whatever you do, don't look at your pennies the same way again. Because that little copper coin might just change your life. Did you know that a single penny, yes, just one copper coin, could make you a millionaire overnight? It's not a myth. It's not a rumor. It's a hard, numismatic fact. And today, we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked treasures in American coin history. The 1975 Lincoln penny with the elusive D mint mark. A coin you may already have sitting in your kitchen drawer, or worse, already spent on a pack of gum. Let's be real. Most people think pennies are useless. They fall between couch cushions, disappear into car cup holders, and collect dust in old mason jars. But here's the truth few understand. Certain pennies, like the 1975 D Lincoln cent, aren't just pocket change. They're portals to unexpected wealth. One recently made headlines with a staggering market value of $975,000. Now you're probably thinking, why this penny? What makes it so valuable? Well, to understand that, we need to go back. The year was 1975. Gerald Ford was president. Gas cost 57 cents a gallon. And at the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened. Millions of Lincoln cents were struck. But among them, a small number had something special. A slight shift. A hidden anomaly. A detail so subtle that most collectors missed it for decades. Some were struck with doubled dies, where elements like Lincoln's profile, the words "In God We Trust," or even the date itself appear slightly doubled under magnification. Others were created using worn-out dies, leading to weak or blurry imprints, which, ironically, made them more desirable to expert collectors who chase imperfections like pirates chase gold. Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you looked closely at your spare change? Because here's the kicker. These valuable pennies don't come with neon signs. They look ordinary to the untrained eye. But to the right buyer, they're a six-figure payday. One known specimen of the 1975 D penny, exhibiting near-perfect condition and an ultra-rare die error, recently sold at auction for $975,000. That's right, just under $1 million. For a coin most people wouldn't bother bending over to pick up off the sidewalk. And it's not just a one-off miracle. Other 1975 D Lincoln cents have sold for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands, depending on their grade, strike, and condition. Coins graded MS-67 and above by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC are in especially high demand. In fact, a 1975 D in mint state red condition is currently one of the most aggressively pursued coins in the rare coin market. Now imagine this, you find a dusty old penny. You wipe it clean, and it turns out to be the exact variation collectors have been hunting for. A coin that could transform your bank account, pay off your mortgage, or fund your retirement. That's not a fantasy. It's already happened to people just like you. But here's where the urgency kicks in. Every day, more of these rare coins vanish. Lost in circulation, dropped, spent, or destroyed. And every year that passes, surviving examples become scarcer, making the remaining few even more valuable. There's a reason serious collectors are watching these coins like hawks. So, what should you be looking for? Start with the basics. On the 1975 D penny, check the D mint mark just below the date. Is it off-centered? Doubled? Sharply struck? Check Lincoln's eye, beard, and collar. Are there signs of doubling or irregular edges? Even subtle misalignments can signal something truly rare. And don't forget the color. Pennies graded as red, meaning they still maintain their original copper luster, are far more valuable than those classified as brown or red-brown. If your coin looks like it just rolled off the mint floor, you could be holding a gem worth hundreds of thousands. But here's the challenge. Identifying a six-figure penny isn't something you guess at. That's why seasoned collectors turn to professional grading services. It costs a small fee, yes, but that tiny investment could unlock a coin's true potential. Coins that are authenticated, graded, and encapsulated have dramatically higher chances of selling for premium prices at auction. And you don't need to be a coin nerd to do this. In fact, some of the biggest discoveries have come from everyday folks. A retired school teacher in Kansas, car mechanic in Nevada, a grandmother cleaning out her attic in Ohio. None of them were experts, but they paid attention. And they acted. What's stopping you? Maybe it's disbelief. Maybe it sounds too good to be true. But the market doesn't lie. With inflation rising and economic uncertainty in the air, rare coins are becoming an increasingly attractive asset. They're physical, they're historical, and in the right conditions, they're wildly profitable. Now let me ask the question nobody likes to face. What if you already spent it? What if you had that 1975 penny in your hand and passed it off at a vending machine for a soda that cost $1.25? What if your million-dollar moment has already slipped through your fingers? Don't let that regret happen again. Go check your jars, your drawers, your old purses. Look in glove compartments, cigar boxes, even beneath the couch. Every 1975 penny deserves a second glance. And who knows? The next great coin discovery could come from your pocket tonight. Stick around, because in the final moments of this video, we're about to reveal one more shocking detail about the 1975 penny that could double its value overnight. So far, we've talked about die errors, color, condition, and professional grading. But what few know is that a small batch of 1975 pennies were mistakenly struck on bronze planchets left over from pre-1982 coin stock. These were never supposed to exist, but a few escaped the mint, and they are worth even more than the standard rare versions. Collectors have paid over $1 million for confirmed bronze strike errors with the D mint mark. They're nearly impossible to tell by sight alone. You need to weigh the coin. A standard 1975 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a bronze error will weigh closer to 3.1 grams. It's a tiny difference, but it could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars. So next time you're holding a 1975 penny, don't just admire the history. Weigh it, examine it, consider the possibilities. Because in a world where money slips through our hands every day, sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest fortune. And the next millionaire could be watching this video right now. There's a penny you might have walked past 1,000 times. Maybe it's still sitting in an old jar, rattling at the bottom of a drawer. 1 cent, almost worthless to most people. But what if I told you one specific 1973 Lincoln penny, with a tiny D just beneath the date, has recently shaken the collector world with a jaw-dropping market value of $973,000. You heard that right. A coin that once barely bought a stick of gum is now worth more than a luxury home in the Hollywood Hills. But here's the twist. The vast majority of people who own this coin have absolutely no idea what they're holding. They think it's just pocket change. That's where the story gets personal. Because if you've ever held a 1973 Lincoln penny, this story might be your story. So how did a simple 1-cent coin minted in Denver become one of the most hunted American rarities? Let's rewind to a time when gas was 40 cents a gallon, Nixon was still in the White House, and the U.S. Mint was unknowingly about to release a mistake into the wild. Now, the 1973 Lincoln penny had a mintage of over 3.5 billion coins. That's billion with a B. So naturally, the average person assumes it's worthless. But here's where things get interesting. Out of those billions, a few freak anomalies slipped through. Pennies struck on bronze planchets intended for earlier years, with rare die errors, double dies, and deep-cut strike defects that create, well, a collector's dream. Imagine a coin with Lincoln's profile slightly ghosted or doubled, or one where the D mint mark is off-center or nearly vanishing. These aren't flaws. They're treasure maps. Each imperfection becomes a fingerprint, making that coin one of a kind. And collectors? They don't just want these anomalies, they fight for them. And here's where it gets spine-tingling. In late 2024, an uncirculated 1973 Lincoln penny with multiple confirmed errors surfaced at an estate sale in Colorado. It had been tucked inside a retired machinist's tool chest for over 4 decades. That coin sold for $973,000 in a private auction. Quietly.
No headlines.
No mainstream news. Just a handful of elite collectors who understood the silent war raging over America's rarest cents. Now you might be wondering, What makes my 1973 penny so special? Good question. There are key signs to look for, and time is not on your side. These coins are aging, wearing down, being lost to circulation, or worse, destroyed by people who don't know what they're holding. Every month, the odds of finding one in top condition grow slimmer. Let's talk about what you can do right now. Grab a magnifying glass. Look at the lettering, especially "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If you spot doubling like a blurry echo, or if Lincoln's eye looks unusually sharp or recessed, you might have something extraordinary. Examine the mint mark. The D should be clear, but on some valuable variants it's tilted, punched twice, or almost missing. And here's the real kicker. Some of the most valuable 1973 D errors are still unlisted. That means new discoveries could happen in your very own coin pile. The market for rare error coins is booming. Wealthy collectors are hungry for new variations. They're throwing money at coins that haven't even been cataloged yet. Ask yourself this: how many coins have passed through your hands? How many were tossed aside? Now ask, how many of those could have been worth 6 or even 7 figures? That thought alone is enough to send chills down your spine. And don't think for a second that this is just about coins. It's about a mindset. It's about finding value where others see junk. It's about training your eyes to see opportunity in the everyday. Because the people who are getting rich off old coins, they're not the ones wearing suits or sitting on Wall Street. They're retirees, hobbyists, people cleaning out garages. They're people just like you, who took a second look at something everyone else ignored. And here's something no one tells you. Every time a rare coin like this hits the market, its story fuels the next frenzy. More buyers enter the game. Prices surge. The remaining examples become even more coveted. That $973,000 sale? It didn't end anything. It started something. A movement. A modern-day gold rush. The clock is ticking. Coins are disappearing into private vaults, never to be seen again. And the few that remain in circulation, they're quietly changing lives. So before you toss that penny, before you cash in that old coffee can of coins, take one last look. You might just be holding history in the palm of your hand. And maybe, just maybe, that 1 cent is your $1 million miracle. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, what if I told you that another Lincoln penny, even older, even rarer, and struck in error, just surfaced last month? And it might be worth over $2 million. We'll talk about that next. What if the penny sitting at the bottom of your junk drawer was worth nearly $1 million? Not a silver coin, not a gold bar, just one dusty old cent from 1970. You probably passed it by 100 times. You've tossed it in tip jars, watched it disappear into vending machines, or even handed it over with exact change at the grocery store without a second thought. But today, you're going to see that little copper coin in a way you never have before. Because hidden among billions of ordinary pennies is one that's quietly rewriting the rules of wealth. A single 1970 Lincoln penny, with a tiny D mint mark below the date, has stunned collectors by reaching a market value of $970,000. That's right, not a typo. $970,000 for 1 cent. And here's the kicker. These aren't locked away in vaults. They're out there, in circulation, in coin jars, in old purses, maybe in your own home right now. Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But once we pull back the curtain on why this coin is so rare, and how to know if you might be holding one, you'll understand exactly why it commands such a staggering price. Let's take a journey back to 1970. The Beatles were breaking up. The Vietnam War was raging. And the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies like it had for decades. But something happened that year in Denver. A small batch of Lincoln cents came out. Different. Some were struck on leftover proof planchets from 1969. Others bore signs of dramatic doubling, an error where details on the coin, like the date and the words "Liberty," appear etched twice, like a ghost image echoing the original. Now, to the untrained eye, these imperfections might seem like factory flaws. But in the eyes of seasoned collectors, they're golden tickets. And they're rare. Very rare. Only a handful of 1970 D double-die Lincoln cents have ever surfaced. And when one does, especially in pristine condition, the bidding wars get heated fast. One such specimen, perfectly preserved and authenticated by top grading services, fetched $970,000 at auction. Why such a high price? It's not just the rarity. It's the story, the mystery, the idea that something so small, so overlooked, could be worth more than a Ferrari, a house, a life savings. Now here's where you need to pay attention, because the difference between a regular 1970 penny and a millionaire maker could come down to microscopic details. Look at the date. Is the 1970 crisp and clean? Or does it look like it's doubled, especially on the 7 or 0? What about Liberty? Do the letters look shadowed or oddly thick? And here's the key, the mint mark. If there's a tiny D just below the year, and the doubling is present, you may be staring at one of the most valuable coins in modern American history. Still with me? Good. Because this isn't just about pennies. It's about awareness. It's about spotting value in places others overlook. It's about wealth hiding in plain sight. Most people never bother to look. They assume their change is just that, change. But imagine how your life would shift if you checked that jar in the garage, that forgotten box in the attic, and found the coin that changed everything. Now you might be asking, how can I know for sure if I've got the real deal? Great question. First, never clean the coin. That old look? Collectors love it. Second, take clear photos of the coin, front and back, in natural light. Then, submit it to a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These institutions don't just authenticate, they preserve and protect. Their seal of approval is what turns an interesting penny into a six-figure treasure. Of course, not every 1970 penny will be a jackpot. But what if yours is? What if that tiny circle of copper and zinc sitting in your kitchen drawer held the keys to your new future? There's something electrifying about discovering value where others see none. It's what drives treasure hunters, historians, and yes, even coin collectors. The thrill of the chase, the promise of reward, the whispers of history echoing from a tiny round disc. And remember, the 1970 is just the beginning. There are dozens of other rare pennies, from the 1955 double die to the 1992 close AM, that are worth thousands, even millions. But the 1970 is special. It's elusive. It's the dream coin. Now here's the part you've been waiting for. At the end of this video, you'll have the power to uncover a fortune. And it won't cost you a thing. Just a few minutes of your time, and a careful look through the coins you already owe WNSO tonight. Don't just empty your pockets. Examine them. Run your fingers across the edges. Check the dates. Look for that tiny D. And if something seems a little off, a little too perfect, a little too strange, that's your moment. Don't ignore it. Because history has a way of hiding itself in the ordinary. And wealth, real wealth, it often whispers before it ever shouts. Still think a penny can't change your life? Check your change. Then check again. You just might be holding $970,000 in the palm of your hand. What if I told you that penny could be worth up to $967,000? Yes, a single cent, just one copper coin, could be the key to unlocking a nearly $1 million fortune. But here's the kicker. The difference between trash and treasure is hiding in plain sight, and most people will never know. Most people will spend it without thinking twice. You're not most people. The 1967 Lincoln penny is no ordinary piece of pocket change. It's a gateway to wealth, a relic of history, and for a lucky few, a financial miracle. But you need to know what to look for, because millions of these were minted, and yet only some are worth a fortune. The question is, do you have the right one? Let's take a moment to go back. The Beatles ruled the airwaves. The Vietnam War raged on. Gas was 33 cents a gallon. And the US Mint? It was under pressure. Coin shortages, public confusion, and a controversial decision. Remove all mint marks from coins to discourage collectors from hoarding them. That's right. In 1967, no Lincoln pennies had a mint mark. It didn't matter if it was made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. They all looked the same. And this is where the mystery begins. Because hiding among those millions are the few, the rare, the errors. Imagine a coin struck with the wrong die, or doubled in the lettering, or pressed off-center, or even made with the wrong metal alloy. These minting mistakes, that's where value explodes. That's where collectors start writing checks with 6, sometimes 7, figures. Let's pause for a second. When was the last time you looked closely at the pennies in your jar? How many 1967s are sitting there, quietly aging, holding secrets? Think about it. You could be one breath away from a life-changing discovery, and you wouldn't even know it. Now let's talk value. In the last few years, certified error coins from 1967 have shattered expectations. One particular specimen, a dramatic off-center strike combined with a bold double die, sold for over $967,000 at private auction. That's more than the average American home. What made it special? Precision, rarity, certification, and a hungry collector who had to have it. But that's not the only story. Another 1967 penny, seemingly ordinary at first glance, was found to have been struck on a dime planchet. That's right, a penny, printed on dime metal, is slipped through the cracks at the mint and into someone's change. That coin sold for tens of thousands, all because one person paid attention. Let me ask you this. Have you been paying attention? Most people overlook pennies. They toss them in drawers, leave them in drive-through trays, or vacuum them into oblivion. But what if the coin you forgot is the one everyone wants? There's something poetic about that, isn't there? You might be wondering now, how do I find out if my 1967 penny is worth anything? Good question. And it starts with a simple inspection. Look at the lettering. Do you see any doubling? Examine Lincoln's eye and the date. Any signs of distortion? Flip it over. Check for off-center strikes, bubbles, or missing details. Even the color matters. A deep red luster? That's a premium trait. A proof strike in circulation? Even more valuable. Still with me? Here's where it gets serious. Once you suspect your coin might be special, the next step is grading. This isn't a backyard operation. It's a job for professionals. Agencies like PCGS or NGC can authenticate your coin, assign it a grade, and enter it into the collector's market. Without that, you're just holding a shiny copper circle. But once it's certified, everything changes. Suddenly, you're not just the person who picked up a penny. You're the person who found a $967,000 artifact. The one who turned copper into gold. And here's the urgency. As more people dig through jars and attics, fewer undiscovered gems remain. Every day, more 1967 error coins are found, certified, and claimed. The window is narrowing. Time is not on your side. So if you have a 1967 penny, don't wait. Check your pockets, your couch cushions, the coin tray in your car. Look inside that old jewelry box your grandfather left behind. Because wealth doesn't always come dressed in gold. Sometimes it shows up looking like pocket change. And you might be the only one who sees it. Imagine this. Tomorrow you walk into a coin shop or auction house. You slide that copper coin across the table. The appraiser squints, then pauses. His eyes widen. He leans back in his chair and says 7 words that stop your heart. This might be the real thing. What would that moment be worth to you? Because if you stick with us until the end, we're going to show you exactly how to get your coin graded, what features make it valuable, and how to list it in the top coin marketplaces. And no, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to know where to look. Still skeptical? Good. That's how treasure hunters start. Not with blind faith, but with curiosity and a willingness to learn. But remember this, the market doesn't wait. Prices are soaring. Demand is rising. And somewhere out there, someone is holding the last undiscovered $1 million 1967 penny. Why not you? The next move is yours. Stay sharp, stay curious, and check every coin like your future depends on it. Because one day, it just might.